Chapter 1. The coarsely airy Lily Harper rushed through the gleaming office of Blackwell Enterprises, her heart pounding in her chest. She had spent weeks preparing the proposal for a high-profile client, and now the final presentation was moments away. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the papers in her folder, hoping she had remembered every crucial detail. She had always prided herself on being organized and meticulous, but today, nerves threatened to undo all her hard work. In the boardroom, the atmosphere was tense. Adrian Blackwell sat at the head of the long, polished table, his sharp eyes scanning the room with an intensity that made Lily feel both exposed and measured. He was known in the business world for being a perfectionist and a deal-maker who did not tolerate mistakes. Lily could feel the weight of his reputation pressing down on her, and a small bead of sweat formed at her temple. As she began the presentation, her voice was steady at first, but then a miscalculation on the final slide caused the numbers to appear wrong. Gasps echoed around the room, and Lily's stomach sank. The client frowned, flipping through the pages she had worked so hard to organize. Adrian's expression was unreadable, but the coldness in his eyes made Lily's chest tighten. She stumbled over her words, trying to explain, but every attempt only seemed to make the error worse. After what felt like an eternity, the meeting ended abruptly. The client left, clearly unimpressed, and Lily stood frozen as Adrian closed the folder in front of him with a controlled sigh. Her mind raced as she prepared herself for the inevitable firing. She had ruined a multi-million-dollar deal, and there was no excuse that could repair the damage. To her surprise, Adrian did not raise his voice or storm out of the room. Instead, he looked at her with a mixture of disappointment and contemplation. "Lily," he said, his tone calm but firm, "this was a serious mistake, one that could have cost us a great deal, but I am willing to give you a chance to make it right." Lily blinked, unsure if she had heard him correctly. A chance to redeem herself was something she had not dared to imagine. I will do whatever it takes," she said, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and hope. Adrian leaned back slightly, his gaze softening for the briefest moment. "You will help me organize the company's upcoming charity gala. If you succeed, it will prove that you are capable. Fail, and I will have no choice but to reconsider your position here." Lily nodded, feeling a rush of determination. This was her opportunity to show that her mistake did not define her. As she left the boardroom, she felt a strange mixture of anxiety and excitement. The tension in the air was palpable, and no sparks of frustration had flown between them. There was also a flicker of something unspoken, something that hinted at the complexity beneath Adrian Blackwell's composed exterior. She took a deep breath, straightening her shoulders, and reminded herself that this was only the beginning. A single mistake had brought her here, but it would not define her future. She would work harder, think faster, and prove that she belonged in Adrian's world. Chapter 2. An unlikely partnership. Lily Harper entered the sprawling office of Blackwell Enterprises with a mixture of awe and anxiety. Every surface gleamed with polished perfection, and the hum of focused employees created a low, constant energy that was almost palpable. She clutched her planner tightly, her fingers tracing the edges as if grounding herself against the nerves twisting in her stomach. This was Adrian Blackwell's world, a place where precision ruled and mistakes were rarely forgiven, and she was now expected to navigate it with skill and confidence. Adrian's assistant, a poised woman with sharp features and impeccable efficiency, led Lily to the team that would help execute the charity gala. Each member exuded competence, their eyes evaluating her silently. She introduced herself with a shaky smile, trying to mask the nervousness creeping into her voice. Adrian followed shortly after, his presence filling the room with silent command. He watched her closely as she outlined her initial ideas for the gala. His posture was rigid, his expression carefully neutral, but Lily sensed the weight of his scrutiny. He questioned her suggestions, pointing out potential flaws and challenging her assumptions. She felt a spark of tension in the room as they clashed over details, but beneath the sharpness in his tone, she noticed moments of subtle guidance. tiny gestures that suggested he wanted her to succeed. Despite the pressure, Lily's creativity began to shine. She suggested innovative decor arrangements, interactive experiences for guests, and ways to make the charity's mission more visible to attendees. Adrian's raised eyebrow and thoughtful silence showed he was impressed, though he would not openly admit it. Slowly, the team began to warm to her ideas, offering small nods and tentative smiles. During a brief break, Adrian stepped aside and handed her a cup of coffee. "You are doing better than I expected," he said quietly, almost as if the words were meant only for her. Lily blinked, startled by the rare glimpse of softness beneath his composed exterior. "Thank you," she replied, a small smile breaking through her tension. The moment passed quickly as he returned to the team, but it lingered in her mind, a subtle reminder that people, even billionaires, were more layered than appearances suggested. As the day progressed, Lily found herself adjusting to the high-stakes environment. She observed how Adrian communicated with his team, how he anticipated problems before they arose, and how he demanded precision without losing sight of the bigger picture. Every challenge forced her to think faster and act smarter. She realized that working with him was not just about organizing an event, but about understanding a man who balanced power, perfection, and a quiet humanity that few ever saw. By the time the workday ended, Lily felt exhausted but exhilarated. She had faced her fears, held her ground, and even earned a small, rare nod of approval from Adrian. The tension between them remained, but it had shifted slightly, becoming less confrontational and more like a careful dance of respect and subtle curiosity. As she packed her things to leave, Lily allowed herself a small moment of pride. She had stepped into a world that intimidated her, faced the scrutiny of one of the most exacting CEOs in the country, and survived. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for the first time since the costly era that had brought her here, she felt a glimmer of confidence. She was not just a mistake waiting to happen. She was someone who could rise to the occasion. Chapter 3. Late nights and misunderstandings. Office lights glowed softly as the evening stretched on, casting long shadows across the sleek surfaces of Blackwell Enterprises. Lily Harper sat at her desk, her eyes scanning the endless list of gala preparations. The hum of computers and the occasional clatter of a keyboard were the only sounds that accompanied her focus. The pressure of perfection weighed heavily on her shoulders, and every decision felt like it carried the potential to make or break the event. Adrian Blackwell appeared at the doorway, his presence commanding even in the quiet of the evening. He crossed the room with measured steps, his dark eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her heart race despite her frustration at the ongoing challenges. "Lily, we need to discuss the celebrity guest list," he said, his tone calm, but edged with impatience. They reviewed the list together, but a small miscommunication about an invitation created a ripple of tension. A high-profile guest had been mistakenly double-booked, and the news threatened to unravel part of the gala's schedule. Voices rose slightly, though they tried to keep it professional, and Lily felt her stomach tighten with guilt. She had worked so hard, yet even the smallest oversight now felt magnified in Adrian's eyes. After the discussion, Adrian stepped back, his expression softening in a rare, unguarded moment. "Mistakes happen," he said quietly, almost to himself. Lily looked up, surprised by the vulnerability in his tone. For the first time, she saw the man behind the billionaire persona, someone who carried the weight of responsibility and the burden of perfection with quiet resilience. As they returned to the tasks at hand, a silence fell between them that was not uncomfortable but reflective. Lily worked with renewed focus, determined to prevent further errors, while Adrian monitored the progress with a careful eye. By the end of the night, both felt the strain of long hours, yet there was a subtle shift in their dynamic. The clashes and misunderstandings had not driven them apart. Instead, they had created a fragile understanding, a glimpse into the depth of each other's dedication and character. When Lily finally left the office, the city lights sparkled beneath her, and she realized that despite the challenges and tension, She was beginning to understand the intricate world Adrian navigated daily. There was frustration, yes, but also admiration and curiosity. She knew that the coming days would test them further. Yet a quiet sense of connection had begun to form, one that neither mistakes nor late nights could entirely erase. Chapter 4. The charity gala preview. Lily Harper arrived at the gala venue early, the soft morning light streaming through tall windows and illuminating the empty hall. Tables stood bare, chairs neatly arranged, and the scent of polished wood and fresh flowers filled the air. She moved through the space with a mixture of excitement and apprehension, envisioning the event coming to life, yet aware of the countless details that still needed attention. Adrian Blackwell joined her shortly after, his presence commanding yet oddly reassuring. He walked slowly around the room, inspecting every corner with critical eyes. "We need this to feel effortless," he said, his voice calm but precise. "The guests should be impressed without realizing how much work went into it." Lily nodded, mentally checking off the numerous tasks still ahead. As they set up a practice run of the gala, small issues began to surface. A centerpiece was slightly askew, a lighting cue needed adjustment, and the vendor had miscommunicated the timing for catering. Lily's heart sank at each new problem, but Adrian's unexpected patience surprised her. Instead of scolding, he offered guidance and solutions, his sharp mind blending seamlessly with her creative ideas. During a brief pause, they stepped outside for fresh air. The city buzzed faintly below, and for a moment, the intensity of the office faded. Adrian handed her a cup of coffee, and they shared a quiet laugh over a minor mishap with the floral arrangements. It was the first time Lily felt a sense of camaraderie with him other than tension. She noticed subtle hints of warmth in his expressions, a kindness he rarely showed publicly. As they returned to the venue, their professional relationship had shifted slightly. Playful banter replaced some of the earlier sharpness, and moments of genuine connection threaded through their work. Lily began to understand that beneath Adrian's exacting standards was a man who appreciated dedication, creativity, and determination. By the end of the day, the practice run revealed both flaws and potential. Lily felt proud of the progress they had made and grateful for Adrian's unexpected support. As she left the venue, she realized that the partnership they were forming extended beyond the professional realm. The gala was more than just an event. It was a bridge between two people who were slowly beginning to understand and respect each other, laying the groundwork for something neither of them had anticipated. Chapter 5. Unexpected confessions. Evening air was cool. Lily Harper walked toward the office building. Another long day of gala preparations. Her shoulders ached from hours of arranging tables, checking lighting, and coordinating with vendors, but her mind refused to settle. She replayed moments from the day, recalling Adrian Blackwell's subtle nods of approval, the faint smile he had offered when a last-minute problem had been solved, and the quiet intensity in his eyes whenever he considered her suggestions. Despite the exhaustion, she felt a flutter of curiosity and something she did not yet fully understand. When she returned to the office, she found Adrian still at his desk, the glow of the city lights reflecting off the glass windows behind him. He looked up briefly as she entered, his gaze sharp but not unkind. "Lily," he said, his voice low and measured, "do you have a moment?" She nodded, her stomach tightening with anticipation. He motioned toward the lounge area, and they sat across from each other, the hum of the office around them fading into a soft background. Adrian leaned back in his chair, his hands folded in front of him, and for a moment he seemed smaller somehow, less the untouchable billionaire and more a man weighed down by responsibilities no one else could see. "I don't often speak about this," he began, his voice quieter than she had ever heard, "but running this company, it is not just about deals and numbers. It is about decisions that affect hundreds of lives. It is exhausting, and at times it is incredibly lonely." Lily listened intently, surprised by the vulnerability in his words. She had only ever known him as a figure of control and authority, yet here he was, revealing a side he never showed publicly. Encouraged by his openness, Lily allowed herself to share her own struggles. She spoke of the pressure she constantly felt to prove herself, the fear of making mistakes that could define her entire career, and the moments of self-doubt that often kept her awake at night. As she spoke, she felt a strange connection forming, a bridge of understanding that neither of them had expected. Adrian's expression softened as he listened, and when she finished, he leaned forward slightly. "I admire your determination," he said earnestly. "Mistakes do not define us, but how we respond to them does. You have handled every challenge with creativity and resilience. I respect that more than you realize." Lily felt a warmth spread through her chest, a mixture of relief, pride, and something more tender that she could not quite name. She realized that the tension and friction between them had begun to give way to mutual respect, trust, and a subtle, growing attraction. For the first time, the idea of working with Adrian Blackwell did not feel like a trial. It felt like an opportunity to learn, grow, and connect. The conversation lingered in her mind long after they returned to their tasks. She noticed small details she had never seen before, the way Adrian's jaw tightened when he was deep in thought, the faint crease in his brow when he focused, and the quiet patience he sometimes extended in moments of genuine concern. Each detail painted a portrait of a man far more complex than the public persona suggested, and Lily found herself wanting to understand him more fully. As she finally left the office, the city lights twinkling around her, she felt a renewed sense of determination. She knew the coming days would test her in ways she could not yet imagine, but she also knew that a deeper connection had begun to form between her and Adrian. Something unspoken and fragile was taking root, and for the first time, she allowed herself to hope that their partnership had now become something more than professional, that it could evolve into a bond built on understanding, respect, and the quiet beginnings of trust. The night air felt charged with possibility, and Lily walked home with a lighter step, her mind and heart fuller than they had been in weeks. The path ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time, she felt she was not facing it alone. Adrian Blackwell, the man she had once feared, was beginning to reveal himself in ways that made her wonder if even the most guarded hearts could find connection when given the chance. Chapter 6. Gala preparations in full swing. Days leading up to the charity gala were a whirlwind of activity, and Lily Harper found herself constantly on the move, juggling vendors, decorations, lighting, and guest confirmations. The office buzzed with urgency, every corner filled with people speaking in clipped tones, hurried footsteps, and the occasional frustrated sigh. She barely had time to sit, let alone breathe, but she welcomed the chaos because it meant progress. Each challenge she overcame was a small victory, a reminder that she could rise to the expectations placed upon her. Adrian Blackwell was everywhere at once, moving through the office with calculated precision, his sharp eyes catching errors before they could escalate. He scrutinized schedules, rehearsed speeches, and meticulously inspected every visual detail. Lily watched him with a mixture of awe and apprehension, despite the pressure he imposed. There were moments when his encouragement surfaced, an approving nod, when a display came together perfectly, or a quiet, almost imperceptible smile when a difficult issue was resolved. These glimpses softened his intimidating persona, and Lily found herself studying him as much as she studied the logistics of the gala. One afternoon, a significant issue arose with the catering schedule. A miscommunication had left several high-profile dishes unprepared, and panic began to ripple through the team. Lily took a deep breath and approached Adrian, explaining the situation and offering alternative solutions. He listened carefully, his gaze intense yet focused. Together, they reorganized the schedule, delegating tasks efficiently and coordinating with the vendors to ensure the problem was solved without anyone noticing. The tension in the room eased, replaced by a quiet sense of accomplishment. Lily realized that working with Adrian was like navigating a complex puzzle. Every piece had to fit perfectly, and every decision mattered. Late evenings became the norm as they rehearsed every aspect of the gala. Lily and Adrian spent long hours reviewing lighting cues, testing audio, and inspecting seating arrangements. In the quiet moments between tasks, small conversations began to emerge. Adrian would ask about her opinions, sometimes lingering on her suggestions longer than necessary, and Lily found herself looking forward to these fleeting interactions. Their professional camaraderie was evolving, layered with subtle curiosity and unspoken acknowledgement of the growing connection between them. One particularly stressful evening, a near-miss incident with the stage setup left both of them shaken. Lily's heart raced as she watched a large prop sway dangerously, and Adrian reacted instantly, steadying it with a firm hand. Their hands brushed, and for a brief moment, the world outside the office seemed to disappear. Neither spoke, but an unspoken understanding passed between them. They relied on each other, not only professionally, but increasingly on a personal level as well. By the end of the day, the gala preparations were nearly complete, yet the tension and anticipation remained high. Lily felt exhausted, yet a sense of pride filled her chest. She had faced overwhelming challenges, adapted quickly, and earned Adrian's quiet approval in the process. The long hours, the pressure, and the constant problem-solving had brought them closer, and Lily could not ignore the subtle sparks that had begun to emerge in their interactions. As she left the office that night, the city lights glimmered below, and she felt a strange mixture of exhilaration and nervous anticipation. The gala was just around the corner, and she knew that every detail had to be perfect. But beyond the event itself, she realized that her partnership with Adrian had grown into something far more intricate and compelling. There was mutual respect, trust, and an undeniable chemistry that neither of them could ignore. The coming days promised both triumphs and challenges, yet Lily felt ready, confident that she and Adrian could face them together. Chapter 7. The night of the gala. Grand hall of the gala venue shimmered under the soft glow of chandeliers, the air filled with the faint scent of fresh flowers and polished wood. Guests arrived in elegant attire, their laughter and conversation blending into a sophisticated hum that set the perfect backdrop for the event. Lily Harper moved among the staff, her eyes scanning every detail, ensuring that each table setting, light cue, and floral arrangement was flawless. Months of preparation had led to this night, and she could feel her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and anxiety. Adrian Blackwell appeared near the entrance, his presence magnetic and commanding. He greeted guests with ease, his sharp features relaxed in moments of genuine warmth. Yet, beneath the composed exterior, Lily knew he was monitoring every aspect of the gala, ensuring that the event unfolded perfectly. She admired the way he balanced charm and precision, how he made it look effortless while carrying the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Despite the meticulous planning, small mishaps began to surface. A misplaced centerpiece caught her attention, a lighting cue was slightly off, and a vendor delivered a dish late. Lily acted quickly, coordinating with the team to correct each issue without letting any guest notice. Adrian moved alongside her, his presence steady and reassuring, offering quick guidance with a calm authority that allowed her to respond with confidence. They worked seamlessly together, their synergy evident in every action, and for the first time, Lily realized how much she relied on him, just as he relied on her. As the evening progressed, the gala reached its peak. Guests mingled, charity auctions ran smoothly, and the atmosphere buzzed with elegance and excitement. Lily took a moment to step back and observe, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment. Every challenge had been overcome, and the gala was a testament to her dedication, creativity, and the partnership she had formed with Adrian. After the last guests departed and the lights dimmed, Lily and Adrian found themselves alone in the now quiet hall. The tension of the night softened into a rare, intimate calm. Adrian leaned against a table, his gaze fixed on her with an intensity that made her chest flutter. "You did exceptionally well tonight," he said, his voice quiet but sincere. Lily felt a warmth spread through her, a mix of pride and a deeper, unspoken emotion that had been building between them for weeks. For a long moment, they stood in silence, the weight of the evening and the unspoken connection between them hanging in the air. It was the first time Lily sensed that Adrian's feelings toward her might extend beyond professional respect. The subtle brush of his hand as he handed her a clipboard earlier, the rare smiles, and the moments of genuine concern now carried a new meaning. As they left the venue together, walking through the quiet streets illuminated by city lights, Lily felt a quiet thrill. The gala had been a success, but more importantly, it had deepened the bond between them. The night held a promise of possibilities, a reminder that sometimes hard work, collaboration, and unexpected connections could transform a professional partnership into something far more meaningful. Chapter 8. The public spotlight. Morning after the gala, the city seemed to buzz with renewed energy, but for Lily Harper, the hum carried a sense of unease. As she scrolled through social media and online articles, she saw the event splashed across headlines and business blogs. Praise for the gala was abundant, yet so were subtle mentions of her and Adrian together, their interactions under the public eye now a topic of speculation. Lily felt a flicker of panic, worried that their professional success might now be overshadowed by rumors she was not ready to confront. Adrian entered the office with his usual composed demeanor, though Lily could sense the faint tension beneath his calm. He approached her desk, his sharp eyes softened slightly. "I've seen the coverage," he said quietly. "Some of it is flattering, but some less so." His tone was even, but Lily caught the brief tightness in his jaw, a subtle reminder of how much he cared about his reputation. Their conversation moved from professional matters to the delicate topic of the rumors swirling around them. Adrian admitted that he noticed the whispers, but was determined not to let them affect their work. Lily, however, struggled with her own insecurities. She worried that she was merely a fleeting part of Adrian's life, a mistake that might be forgotten once the gala was over. The vulnerability she felt made her heart ache, and she found it difficult to meet his gaze. Adrian, sensing her unease, approached with a rare gentleness. "Lily," he said, his voice low, "what people think of us does not define what we are. We cannot control every opinion, but we can control our actions and how we treat each other." His words carried weight, a quiet reassurance that both comforted and challenged her. She realized that beneath his composed exterior, Adrian wrestled with vulnerability, fears, and the complexity of emotions he rarely shared. Later that day, they found a quiet moment together in the office lounge. The conversation drifted naturally, allowing them to acknowledge the tension between them without judgment. Lily admitted her fear of being just a temporary presence in Adrian's life, and he, in turn, revealed how unusual it was for him to let anyone see past the control and perfection he maintained. In that exchange, a subtle understanding and trust began to take root, bridging the gap between professional respect and personal connection. Despite the public scrutiny and the lingering uncertainty, a spark had emerged. Their brief, shared moments carried unspoken possibilities, a tension that neither rumor nor fear could fully diminish. Lily realized that attraction and care could grow even under the most intense spotlight, and Adrian seemed to acknowledge, quietly and intentionally, that the bond between them was worth noticing, protecting, and exploring. By the end of the day, Lily felt a cautious optimism. The world had its opinions, but the moments she shared with Adrian were real, tangible, and meaningful. She understood that the path ahead required courage, honesty, and vulnerability, yet she also felt that their connection had grown stronger in the face of public scrutiny. It was a delicate balance, but one she was now willing to navigate, aware that the heart often required risk to discover true reward. Chapter 9. Confessions and Realizations. Office was unusually tense that morning, the hum of activity undercut by an urgent undercurrent. Adrian Blackwell's company faced a sudden crisis when a major client threatened to withdraw a crucial contract. Emails piled up, phones rang constantly, and employees moved with hurried precision. Lily Harper felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her chest, but instead of panic, a steely determination took over. She knew that tonight's gala had raised expectations, and now they had to prove their competence beyond appearances. Adrian stood at the center of the chaos, calm yet commanding, issuing instructions with precision. His usual composed demeanor was tested, and Lily noticed subtle cracks in the armor, the tight line of his jaw, the flicker of fatigue in his eyes. She realized that despite his billionaire status and reputation for control, he was human, capable of stress, doubt, and the need for support. Without thinking, she stepped forward to assist, coordinating with team members, clarifying details, and offering solutions to salvage the client relationship. Throughout the day, they worked side by side, the synergy they had developed during the gala preparations now essential in managing the crisis. Every decision, every reassignment, every carefully worded message relied on trust and understanding that had grown between them over weeks of collaboration. Adrian noticed her resourcefulness and calm under pressure, his usual critical gaze softening into admiration. As the crisis stabilized, a rare quiet moment emerged in his office. Adrian leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples, and then looked at Lily with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "You've proven yourself in ways I didn't anticipate," he said, his voice low but sincere. "Not just in skill or creativity, but in loyalty, judgment, and resilience. I trust you in ways I rarely trust anyone." Lily felt a warmth rise in her chest. She had long feared that her mistake would define her entire career. Yet here she was, recognized not just for her competence, but for her integrity and courage. Encouraged by the honesty in his eyes, she spoke from the heart. "Adrian, I've realized that this isn't just about work for me. I care about what we're building together, about the trust between us, and about you." For a long moment, the office was silent except for the hum of the city outside. Adrian's expression softened, a mix of relief, admiration, and something deeper shining through. "Lily," he said, leaning forward slightly, "I feel the same. I've tried to maintain control and distance, but over time, you've become indispensable, not just professionally, but personally. I trust you, and I want you to know that you are far more than a mistake in my life." The tension between them melted into a moment of profound understanding. Words had finally bridged the unspoken emotions that had built over weeks of collaboration, long nights, and subtle glances. For the first time, they acknowledged not only their growing attraction, but the foundation of trust and respect that would support it. As they left the office together, the city light stretching below them, Lily felt a sense of clarity and hope she had not anticipated. The crisis had tested them both, revealing vulnerabilities and strengths alike. In the process, they had found honesty, trust, and the courage to admit their feelings. The future, once uncertain and intimidating, now held the promise of a shared path, built on understanding, commitment, and the beginnings of love that neither had expected to find amidst the challenges of work and life. Chapter 10. $1 million beginning. Morning sunlight spilled into the Blackwell Enterprises office, painting the sleek surfaces with a warm glow. Lily Harper walked through the familiar corridors with a calm confidence she had never possessed before. The charity gala had been a resounding success, the business crisis resolved, and now, after weeks of tension, late nights, and unexpected emotions, her professional and personal worlds had finally begun to align. Adrian Blackwell approached her desk, his expression relaxed yet focused. There was no longer the rigid intensity that had once made her heart race with nervousness. Instead, his gaze held warmth and acknowledgement, a subtle reflection of the connection that had grown between them. "Good morning, Lily," he said, his voice easy and familiar. "I think we've earned a moment of quiet before the next big challenge." They walked together through the office, the hum of activity around them providing a comforting backdrop other than pressure. Adrian stopped by the window, gazing out at the city below before turning his attention to her. "You've done more than prove yourself in this company," he said, his tone quiet but sincere. "You've shown me what it means to trust someone, to rely on them, and to see the potential in moments I might have overlooked. I want you to know that this is just the beginning, not only for the company but for us." Lily felt a swell of emotion in her chest. The weeks of stress, mistakes, and late-night collaborations had led to this clarity, to a moment where both of them could acknowledge the bond that had grown beyond work. She smiled, her eyes meeting his with an understanding and affection that had been slowly building. "I feel the same," she admitted. "What we've built together, it's more than I could have hoped for, in every way." The days that followed were a delicate balancing act, blending professional responsibilities with personal connection. Lily's talent and dedication were recognized and celebrated, while Adrian allowed himself moments of vulnerability and genuine affection he rarely showed anyone. Together, they navigated challenges with mutual trust, laughter, and a growing intimacy that neither had anticipated. When their paths first collided over a costly mistake, one evening, as the city lights glittered outside their office windows, they paused for a quiet moment together. The air was filled with a gentle calm, a reflection of all they had endured and accomplished. Adrian took Lily's hand, his thumb brushing lightly over hers, and she felt the certainty of their partnership, both in work and in life. The mistakes of the past now felt like stepping stones leading to this shared moment of happiness. Lily realized that the journey had not been simple, but it had been transformative. She had grown in confidence, skill, and understanding, and she had discovered a connection that transcended professional boundaries. Adrian, once a figure of unyielding control, had learned to trust, to lean on someone else, and to embrace the vulnerability that came with genuine emotion. As they looked out over the city together, hand in hand, the future felt full of promise. Challenges would come, as they always did, but they would face them together, united by trust, respect, and love. The story of a single costly mistake had led to something far greater, a $1 million beginning, rich with hope, partnership, and the certainty that sometimes the greatest successes arise from the most unexpected errors.